Have you ever found yourself crying without tears, sitting in silence, staring at a door that never seems to open, wondering how long a heart can keep waiting before it finally gives up? You try, you really do. You wake up each morning hoping something will change. You smile, you pray, you keep your faith steady on the outside, but deep inside, you are tired. Tired of trying, tired of hoping, tired of saying maybe this time, only to face the same disappointment again. It is a quiet kind of exhaustion, one that no one else sees, and sometimes not even you can explain. What do you do when you've done everything right, yet life keeps sending you the same test, the same heartbreak, the same silence? You feel like you're walking in circles. The road looks different, but the destination never changes. You start strong, you trust, you pray with sincerity, you believe, but then it slips through your hands again. The job, the marriage, the healing, the peace. It was almost yours, so close, but once again the door closes gently and you are left standing on the other side, wondering if you were ever meant to enter. And in these moments, questions begin to form inside you. Card question. Am I not good enough? Is Allah angry with me? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stay stuck? These thoughts are heavy, not because they're loud, but because they sit in your heart like weight you cannot lift. You carry them to bed. You carry them in prayer. You carry them in the way you respond when someone asks if you're okay. You smile, but your soul feels like it's slowly unraveling. But what if I told you something your heart needs to hear right now? What if I told you that you're not being punished? You're not being forgotten. You're not invisible to the one who created you. What if this delay you hate so much is not a rejection, but a divine preparation? What if the same door that keeps closing is not meant to shut you out, but to bring you closer to something greater, something you cannot see yet? As Allah Almighty says in the Qur'an, perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and perhaps you love something which is bad for you. Allah knows, and you do not know. This verse was not revealed for someone else. It was revealed for all of us, for moments exactly like this, for times when your heart cannot understand the reason behind the delay, but your soul is still trying to trust anyway. Allah Almighty knows what you do not. He sees what you cannot, and He never writes a hardship without attaching to it a deep, lasting wisdom. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, whoever Allah intends good for, He puts them through trials. What a beautiful, almost unbelievable mercy, that the pain you are feeling right now may actually be a sign that Allah wants good for you. That this closed door might be saving you from a heartbreak you didn't see coming. That this long wait might be softening your heart for a gift you cannot yet carry, because Allah does not delay out of cruelty, He delays out of care. And sometimes He holds something back, not because you are unworthy, but because He's still shaping your soul into the kind of heart that can carry what is coming. He knows that if He gave it to you now, you might settle for less. You might misuse it. You might even forget Him. So in His wisdom, He keeps you waiting. Not to punish you, but to protect you. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair at times. But trust this, even when your faith feels tired, every prayer you whispered was heard. Every tear that fell in private was seen. Every moment you resisted despair and chose to believe again, even when nothing changed, was written down. You have not been walking in circles. You have been walking through refinement, through growth, through silent preparation for something your heart cannot yet imagine. So before you give up, before you say it's never going to change, before you believe the lie that you are not enough, breathe, pause, remember who you are praying to, remember whose timing you are trusting. You're not walking alone, you are being led gently through a path only Allah can design. And if the same door keeps closing, then maybe that door was not built for you. Maybe something better is waiting just a few steps further. Maybe this is not your ending, maybe this is the beginning of your becoming. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep praying, because you are not being ignored, you are being prepared. There is a kind of pain that's hard to explain. It's not the pain of complete loss. It's not the pain of never trying. It's the pain of almost healed, almost chosen, almost accepted, almost free. And somehow that word almost hurts more than failure itself, because you were right there, you had hope in your hands, you saw the door begin to open, you even took a step forward, and then, without warning, you sit quietly after. Not just confused but wounded, you whisper to yourself, I thought this would be it. You stare at the ceiling and think, why does it keep slipping away right at the end? And no one really sees how much it breaks you, because from the outside you look fine. You're surviving, you're smiling. But inside you are tired of being close and still losing. You're tired of being patient and still being asked to wait. You are tired of hoping and still not receiving. And what makes it hard is that you've been doing everything right. You pray, you cry to Allah Almighty, you do your part, you try your best to stay grateful, but nothing seems to change. The blessing still doesn't come. The outcome still falls apart. And quietly you begin to wonder if you're the problem. Maybe you're not worthy. Maybe you're being punished. Maybe Allah doesn't want to answer you. These thoughts creep in, even if your heart knows better. Because pain has a way of blurring your vision, of making you doubt the very faith you once held strong. But here is a truth you may have forgotten. Not every repeated struggle is a sign of rejection. Sometimes it is a sign of refinement, a sign that something greater is being prepared behind the scenes. A sign that your heart is being taught how to carry something far bigger than what you are praying for. You see, when you are close to something special, your test becomes harder. Because Allah Almighty is not just testing your patience, He is shaping your strength, He is polishing your trust, He is building a foundation inside you so that when the blessing arrives, it does not break you, it grows you. As Allah Almighty says in the Qur'an, indeed with hardship comes ease. This verse is not just comfort, it is a promise. But notice how ease does not always come before the struggle. It comes with it, hidden inside it, wrapped in the very moments you are asking to be rescued from. This means that the very almosts you are tired of may actually be carrying seeds of something greater. And you may not even realize it until the test is over and your heart looks back with clarity. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, be mindful of Allah and He will protect you. Be mindful of Allah and you will find Him in front of you. What a beautiful reminder that even when nothing seems to be moving around you, Allah is still with you, still guiding, still protecting, still shaping every moment into something meaningful. Maybe that job you almost got would have drained your soul. Maybe that person you almost married was not the one who would protect your faith. Maybe that opportunity you almost reached would have taken you further from your purpose. And maybe, just maybe, Allah held it back to give you something better. Not necessarily easier, but better for your growth, your faith, your long-term peace. It is not easy to believe this when your heart is aching, when all you see is what you lost. But belief in those moments is what makes your faith real. Anyone can be grateful when the doors open, but what about when they close again and again? What about when you are left with only prayer and patience? That is where true surrender begins. That is where real growth happens. That is where hearts are reshaped by mercy, even through pain. So if you find yourself repeating the same cycle, praying, trying, almost reaching, and then losing again, do not rush to blame yourself. And do not rush to blame Allah. Instead, ask, what is Allah trying to build inside me through this? Because He never repeats a test without purpose. And He never holds something back without preparing you for something greater. Your almost are not wasted. Your delays are not forgotten. Every time you fall to the ground and cry out to Allah, something shifts. Maybe not in your circumstances yet, but always in your heart. And sometimes that shift is more important than the answer you are waiting for. So stay in prayer, stay in trust, stay in the quiet company of the one who sees what no one else sees. Because what looks like a cycle of disappointment may actually be a staircase to something sacred, and you might be just one step away. Keep walking, keep hoping, because the almosts are not the end of your story. They are part of the path that leads to the chapter you cannot yet imagine. There are moments in life when the pain is too deep for words, when no advice brings comfort, when no hug feels long enough, when the one you leaned on, the one who held your world together, is suddenly gone. And you are left in a silence that echoes through your soul. Ummah Salama, may Allah be pleased with her, knew this kind of pain. She knew what it felt like to lose someone who wasn't just her husband, but her companion in faith, her strength in hardship, her safe place in a world that had turned harsh and heavy. Her life with Abu Salama was filled with sacrifice. They migrated for their faith. They endured trials side by side. They were among the earliest Muslims to give up comfort and safety for the sake of what they believed in. Their bond was not just emotional, it was spiritual, rooted in faith, grown in trust, strengthened by love. And then after everything they went through together, he passed away. Just like that. No final words, no last goodbye. She was left with his memory, their children, and a grief that wrapped itself around her heart like a storm that would not pass. What do you do in that moment? When the pain is not just about losing someone, but about losing the life you built with them. When your future becomes a blur and your past feels like the only place you ever belonged. Salama did something incredible, something we often overlook. She made a prayer, a quiet, broken-hearted prayer. She said, "Oh Allah, reward me for my affliction and give me better than in return." But the moment the words left her mouth, she questioned herself. Who could be better than Abu Salama, she wondered. She truly believed there was no one better. That was the depth of her love. That was the honesty of her grief. But she still said it. She still surrendered, even though her heart could not imagine what better could mean. She still gave her pain to Allah Almighty. She still believed that somehow, some way, her broken heart could be healed by the one who created it. As Allah Almighty says in the Qur'an, whoever fears Allah, He will make a way out for them and provide for them from where they do not expect. Exactly what happened to her. Her heart could not expect it, her mind could not imagine it, but sometime after her grief had settled into quiet surrender, she received a proposal, not just from anyone, but from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the greatest man to ever walk this earth, the one who was known for his mercy, his strength, his gentleness, the one whom Allah Almighty sent as a mercy to the world. That same man now asked for her hand in marriage. Imagine her heart in that moment. Not just healed, but honored, not just restored, but elevated. Because what she thought was the end of her story was only the middle. What she thought was the greatest loss she would ever face was the door to the greatest gift she would ever receive. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, whoever gives up something for the sake of Allah, I will replace it with something better. And sometimes the better is so beyond what we imagined that we hesitate to even believe it's possible. But there is a space between the loss and the gift. And that space is a test of trust, a test of patience, a test of whether you will keep praying when the answers don't come, a test of whether you will still believe in the mercy of Allah when your world feels cold and dark. Salama lived in that space. And maybe right now, maybe you are in a season of waiting, a season where nothing feels certain, a season where you are doing everything right and still nothing is working, and it hurts, it confuses you, it tempts you to stop trying. But if Salama teaches us anything, it's this: even when your heart cannot see the way forward, pray anyway. Even when your mind cannot imagine what better looks like, trust that Allah still can. Because Allah Almighty does not forget the tears you cried in secret. He does not overlook the dua you whispered through trembling lips. He sees you, and He is already writing something for you that you cannot yet comprehend. Something you may not believe you deserve, but He knows what your soul needs. He knows how to rebuild a heart that has been shattered, and He knows how to give a gift so broken that it makes you forget how deeply you were once broken. So let the story hold you gently. Let it remind you that the end of one chapter is not the end of your book. That the person you lost, the opportunity that slipped away, the life you imagined that didn't work out, it was not the final word. There is more. There is better. There is the next page that will make sense of everything you're questioning right now. Hold on. Make the dua, say it even if you can't picture how it could ever come true. Because Allah is not asking you to imagine the outcome. He's only asking you to trust Him with your heart, just like Salama did. And when you do that, something beautiful begins to unfold. Not instantly, not obviously, but gently, quietly, in a way only Allah can design. And one day, you will look back and say, now I understand. Not because it stopped hurting, but because the blessing was worth every tear you cried along the way. There is a kind of waiting that feels like silence. Not just the kind where nothing is happening on the outside, but the kind where your soul feels paused. You do what you're supposed to do. You wake up, you pray, you try to stay hopeful, but inside it feels like time is frozen. You are not moving backward, but you are not moving forward either. You are in the in-between. And it is one of the hardest places to be. You may have walked away from something you thought would last forever, or maybe something slipped away before you could even hold it properly. Maybe you've outgrown the place you were in, but the next place has not arrived. You are in transition, in the space between endings and beginnings. And you are tired of being patient. You are tired of hearing wait when what you really want is now. This is where faith becomes real. Not in the answered prayer, but in the unanswered one. Not when the door opens, but when it stays shut and you keep knocking anyway. Not when you see the way clearly, but when you walk blind, trusting that Allah Almighty sees what you cannot. As Allah Almighty says with those who are patient, not just watching over them, not just rewarding them later. He is with them, right there, in the silence, in the ache, in the long quiet wait. That's where His presence becomes most intimate. That's where His nearness is not just a concept, but a comfort that fills the spaces where people cannot reach. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, know that victory comes with patience, relief with hardship, and ease with just difficulty. Sometimes we rush the middle because we are uncomfortable with stillness. We are used to speed. We want instant answers. But the middle is where Allah does His most beautiful work. It is where pride is softened, where prayer becomes deeper, where what once felt like a delay becomes a conversation between your heart and your Creator that no one else can hear. This is why it hurts, because you are being reshaped, not just externally, but deep within. And reshaping is not painless. It requires surrender. It requires releasing what you thought life should look like and embracing what Allah thought knows is better. And that better often comes in ways you did not expect, through paths you never planned, in timings you would never have chosen. Think of the seed buried underground. It looks like nothing is happening, but in reality a transformation is taking place. Roots are growing, the foundation is being laid, and only after that hidden work is complete does the growth appear. Your life is the same. What feels like being buried may actually be you being rooted. What feels like waiting may be the silent phase before blooming. Maybe the no you received was really a not yet. Maybe the relationship that ended saved you from something your heart was not yet strong enough to carry. Maybe the job you lost was clearing space for something that aligns with your purpose. Maybe the silence you're sitting in is not empty. Maybe it's sacred. Maybe it's where you meet Allah in a way you never did when life was full of noise and movement. You see, we think movement means progress, but in Allah's plan, stillness can be just as powerful, because He's not only interested in where you are going, He's interested in who you are becoming along the way. And the version of you that will receive the next chapter, the one filled with joy, clarity, and ease, may require a quieter season to be shaped. So if you're in that in-between place, don't lose heart. Don't rush what is not meant to arrive yet. Don't let the silence convince you that Allah is absent. He is closer now than you realize, watching, guiding, preparing. And when the time is right, not a moment too soon or too late, the next door will open. And it will open in a way that makes you say, only Allah could have done this. Let your silence be a space of worship. Let your patience become a form of trust. Let your waiting become a testimony of faith. Because this middle, this pause, is not a punishment, it is part of the story. And stories only make sense when you read the next chapter. So stay present. Even when you feel unseen, stay hopeful. Even when you feel unheard, stay soft. Even when life feels harsh, because Allah is not preparing the world for you. He is preparing you for what He already wrote. And when it comes, you will understand why it took so long, why it was so hard, why you had to wait. Until then, breathe. You are not lost. You are being placed. You are not forgotten. You are being focused. You are not being punished. You are being protected. And the middle you are standing in now might just be the exact ground where your breakthrough begins. What do you do when the pain is not over but life keeps going? When your heart is still raw, your questions are still unanswered, and yet the world expects you to function, smile, carry on. This is one of the hardest parts of the test. Trying to heal while you're still hurting. Trying to stay close to Allah Almighty when everything around you feels distant, numb, and out of place. People say, be strong. But strength isn't what you need right now. What you need is permission. Permission to be honest. But permission to feel. Permission to fall down and still believe you are not failing. Healing in Islam does not require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be sincere. It begins not after the storm ends, but right in the middle of it. It begins when you stop pretending you're fine. When you open your hands in prayer and say, I don't know what to do anymore, but I still choose you, Allah. That moment is not weakness. That moment is the beginning of healing. As Allah Almighty says in the Qur'an, and your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you. It doesn't say you need the right words. It doesn't say your heart must be calm. It simply says call upon Him. And sometimes your call isn't loud. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark. Sometimes it's a tear you cannot explain. Sometimes it's sitting in silence, not even knowing what to ask for. That silence is still a prayer. That tear is still a message. That brokenness is still a bridge between you and the one who heals all wounds. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, verily Allah does not look at your appearance or wealth, but rather He looks at your hearts and your deeds. This is what makes our faith so beautiful. Allah sees what the world cannot. He sees the moment you force yourself to rise for prayer. Even when your soul is heavy, He sees the quiet battles you fight just to stay believing. He sees the moments you almost gave up but chose to hold on just a little longer. And in those moments, even when nothing changes on the outside, something begins to shift within. Your heart, once filled with noise, begins to quiet. Your pain, once overwhelming, begins to soften. And even if the wound is still open, you start to breathe differently. Because healing is not always about resolution. Sometimes it's about realignment, about learning to sit with your pain while holding on to hope. You may not be able to fix everything right now, but there are still things you can do. Gentle things, quiet things. Things that open your heart even while it aches. Write your thoughts, not for the world to read, but for your soul to release. Speak to Allah honestly, even if all you say is, I don't know what to say anymore. Visit someone lonelier than you. Call someone who is grieving. Give someone a smile you wish you had for yourself. These are not distractions, these are forms of healing. Every time you bring comfort to another heart, Allah gently brings ease to yours. And don't forget to speak kindly to yourself. You would never call someone else a failure for struggling. You would never tell someone they are weak for feeling overwhelmed. So why do you say it to yourself? Your test is not a sign of failure. Your sadness is not a sign that you are distant from Allah. In fact, it might be the exact sign that He is drawing you closer. Take care of your body as you care for your soul. Rest if you need to. Cry if you must. Pause if your spirit is tired. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs that your heart is alive. And a heart that still aches is a heart that still cares. That means there is still hope inside you, no matter how small. Sometimes you are not meant to solve your pain immediately. Sometimes you are only meant to sit with it long enough to understand what it is teaching you. And what it teaches you is never meaningless. It teaches you compassion. It teaches you how to lean on Allah in a way you never did before. So if your heart is still hurting, but your healing has not yet arrived, that's okay. You are still in motion, you are still rising, you are still being written into a story that ends with mercy. Let your wounds speak to Allah before they speak to the world. Let your tears fall in prayer before they fall in frustration. Because healing in Islam is not about pretending you are whole. It is about returning to the one who already knows you are not. And the moment you return, broken, tired, uncertain, is the moment your healing begins. Not after the pain, not once it's over, but right now. In the very middle of it, let that be enough. Let that be sacred. Let that be your first step forward. Maybe your story doesn't look dramatic from the outside. You're not going through a loud tragedy. You're not in the middle of chaos. But inside, you are barely holding it together. You go to work, you fulfill your responsibilities, you smile at people, you pray your prayers. But somewhere beneath all of that, there is a sadness, a heaviness, a kind of emotional weight that no one else can see. And maybe that's what makes it harder, because no one knows, no one asks, no one sees how hard you are trying to just make it through another day. You might be a parent quietly trying to hold the house together, or a student facing rejection after rejection, or someone working hard just to stay afloat while the world praises those who seem to have everything handed to them. You might be watching others succeed with ease while your path feels like walking uphill in the dark, and you wonder quietly, what am I doing wrong? Why is my life so stuck? Why does Allah keep testing me like this? And maybe no one will ever understand what you are carrying. But that does not mean you are alone. That does not mean your pain is meaningless. Because your pain is seen. Your pain is known. Your pain is held by the one who never leaves a heart unguarded. Just because your strength is quiet does not mean it is not powerful. Just because your struggle is unseen does not mean it is unimportant. As Allah Almighty says in the Qur'an, and He is with you wherever you are. Wherever you are, not just physically, but emotionally, in your joy, in your sorrow, in your confusion, in your numbness. That verse is a blanket for every unseen heartache. It means that even if no one else understands you, Allah does. Even if no one else hears your silent cries, Allah does. And He responds not just with comfort, but with purpose, with mercy, with the kind of love that wraps itself around you even when you feel unworthy. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, indeed, Allah is gentle and loves gentleness in all matters. How beautiful it is to know that the one who tests you is also the one who knows exactly how much you can take. The one who sees the strength you show in silence. The one who knows the courage it takes to keep praying even when you feel empty. The one who writes your hidden efforts in a book that no one else will ever see. but that will speak on your behalf on the day when nothing else matters. Sometimes the most meaningful acts are the quietest. Waking up for prayer when no one else knows. Holding back tears in front of your children so they feel safe. Giving in charity when you are struggling yourself. Forgiving someone who never apologized. These are the acts that are closest to sincerity. The acts that are often unnoticed by people but deeply loved by Allah. And perhaps the reason your story feels paused is not because you are being overlooked, but because Allah is perfecting something inside you, refining something no one else can see. Maybe your season of waiting is not a punishment, but a preparation. Maybe the very fact that no one else notices your struggle is what makes it so precious in the sight of Allah. Because when you are not seen by the world, you are seen more clearly by Him. When you are not praised by people, your reward becomes even purer. When you are not comforted by those around you, your comfort becomes more intimate with the one who is always near. This is your quiet strength. The strength to keep going when no one claps for you. The strength to stay kind when you feel bitter. The strength to keep trusting when your heart is tired. And this strength is not small, it is not invisible. It is beloved. So do not belittle your hidden pain. Do not think your small steps are forgotten. Do not believe that your quiet nights and silent tears are wasted. They are being written. They are being rewarded. They are being transformed into a light that will guide you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But when you need it most, let yourself be honest with Allah. Let your prayers be real. Say, I'm tired. Say, I'm lost. Say, help me find peace again. And then leave it with Him. Not because things will suddenly change, but because your heart will. You don't have to explain your pain to the world. But you can always pour it out to the one who created it, the one who allows pain only when it brings you closer to something sacred, the one who sees past your surface and into the story that even you haven't fully understood. So if all you've been doing lately is surviving, that is enough. If all you've had the strength to do is pray with a trembling voice, that is enough. If you're still here, still believing, still hoping, even in the smallest way, that is more than enough, because Allah sees, Allah knows. And Allah never wastes the quiet strength of a heart that turns to Him, even when it is breaking. You've come this far. And maybe that in itself is a miracle, because no one knows how many times you've cried about giving up, how many nights you cried quietly and then wiped your face before anyone could see, how many days you smiled even when your heart was heavy. You've been carrying pain in silence, walking through delays and heartbreaks with faith that often feels like it's flickering, but still you are here. Still turning to Allah Almighty, still trying, still holding on. But you've asked yourself again and again, why is this happening to me? Why do I keep being tested? Why does it feel like my life is not moving forward? But what if the real question is, what is Allah's building inside me through all of this? Because tests in this life are not random. They are precise, they are written with wisdom, designed to awaken something deep within you, not to break you, but to shape you. As Allah says in the Qur'an, indeed, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. That verse is not a slogan, it is a promise, a personal reminder from your Creator that He sees your capacity even when you don't. That what feels unbearable now will one day make sense, because you are not created to walk through life without pain. You are created to walk through pain with purpose. And the purpose behind your pain is not to weaken you, it is to prepare you. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, amazing is the affair of the believer, for everything that happens to them is good. This hadith only makes sense when you understand that goodness in Islam is not always ease. Sometimes goodness looks like loss. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like unanswered prayers. But if it brings you closer to Allah, if it teaches your heart to lean on Him, if it purifies your soul, even if it hurts. You see, what feels like a pause right now might actually be protection. What feels like silence might be placement. What feels like rejection might be the very mercy that saves you from something smaller. Because Allah is not just writing your story, He is writing it with divine precision. Every closed door, every painful goodbye, every deep disappointment is a sentence in a chapter that will one day lead you to say, now I see, now I understand. And maybe, just maybe, you're not behind, you're not forgotten, you're being held, not by the world, not by the people you're waiting on, but by the one who never lets go, the one who knows when your heart is ready to carry what you've been asking for. The one who delays not because you're unworthy, but because the gift is too big to arrive in a heart that still needs healing. So trust the wait, trust the detour, trust the long nights and the quiet prayers. Because not a single tear has gone unnoticed, not a single dua has been wasted, not a single moment of patience has been without meaning. Even now, when it all feels slow and heavy, something is shifting, something is moving, something is being written. You may not see it, but you are being guided. Maybe not in the way you hoped, but in the way you need. And the breakthrough, the change you've been aching for, may not come loud. It may not come with signs or announcements. It may come quietly, softly, in a moment when you least expect it, in a way that only Allah can orchestrate. But it will come, not because you deserve it, not because Allah is most merciful, but because Allah is most merciful. And He never leaves a heart that turns to Him empty. Sometimes what you thought was the end was really the beginning of a better story. And sometimes what you thought was being taken from you was actually being exchanged for something deeper. So stop asking if you're falling behind, you're not. Stop asking if you're being punished, you're not. Stop asking if Allah has forgotten you, He hasn't. You are exactly where you are meant to be, not because life is fair, but because Allah is just. Because the one who created your heart knows exactly how to heal it. And the one who delayed your blessing knows exactly when to deliver it. So hold on. Even if all you have left is a whisper of hope, that whisper counts, that dua counts. That one prayer in the middle of the night when you could barely speak may be the very reason your breakthrough is written. And when it comes, it won't just bring relief, it will bring understanding, it will bring peace. It will bring that moment when you look back and say, if it hadn't been for the wait, I wouldn't have grown. If it hadn't been for the loss, I wouldn't have found what really matters. If it hadn't been for the heartbreak, I wouldn't have discovered the depth of Allah's mercy. This is not the end of your story. This is the chapter before everything begins to make sense. Trust the author. He writes with wisdom, he delays with purpose, and he breaks hearts only to rebuild them softer, stronger, and closer to Him. So breathe, rest your heart. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are being prepared gently, deeply, lovingly for a breakthrough that is already written in a chapter you just haven't turned to yet.